Imagine discovering that the biggest financial mistake many people make is not spending too much, but trusting the wrong place to grow their money. For years, many people learned that the safe path was simple. Work, receive a salary, save a little at the bank, and wait for the future to get better. But there is a problem with that story. While your money sits still, the bank does not let it sit still. The bank lends, invests, charges interest, moves that money around, and generates profit. But for you, most of the time, the return is far too small to beat rising prices. That is why this video is so important. Today, you are going to understand why simply saving money is not enough to build wealth. You will understand why time needs to be used with intention, why money is like a language that needs to be learned, why the routine of working, receiving, and paying bills can become a prison, and why assets, passive income, financial education, and smart investments can completely change a person's future. But before talking about assets, financial freedom, good debt, bad debt, and the rat race, you need to understand the first point. Your money cannot stand still while the world keeps moving. For a long time, keeping money in the bank was presented as the great sign of responsibility. The person would receive their salary, pay the bills, and if anything was left over, put it in the bank. And they felt safe because they would look at that amount sitting there and think, my money is saved. But here is the question almost nobody asks. Saved for whom? Because while you believe the money is simply resting in your account, the bank is working with it. The bank uses people's money every day. It lends to other people, finances real estate, charges interest, moves resources, takes part in large operations, and turns idle money into profit. And that is fine. That is the bank's business. The problem is when you leave your money there earning little while prices rise every year. Think about it. If the market gets more expensive, fuel goes up, rent increases, medicine increases, school increases, electricity increases, but your money grows little or almost nothing, what is really happening? You are losing purchasing power. Even if the number in your account looks the same, the real value of that money is decreasing. Before, with $100, you could buy more. After some time, the same $100 buys less and less. And this happens because of inflation. That is why simply saving money can give a false sense of security. The person looks at the money in the bank and thinks they are protected, but silently, that money may be getting weaker, not because it disappeared from the account, but because it lost strength against rising prices. And this is where the shift in mindset begins. Whoever wants to build wealth needs to stop thinking only about saving money and start thinking about putting money to work. Is saving important? Yes. Is having a reserve important? Very much. Nobody should live without protection for emergencies. But there is a difference between saving for security and leaving all your money sitting idle, waiting for it to perform miracles on its own. Money needs to have a purpose. One part protects you, another part pays for your needs, another part needs to grow, and another part needs to work to generate more money in the future. That is the difference between a person who merely survives financially and a person who starts building wealth. Most people work hard for money. They wake up early, face pressure, spend hours at work, arrive home tired, and wait for the next paycheck. But when they receive it, they hand almost all of it back to the bank, to the market, to the bills, to the credit card, to interest, to installments. And when a little is left over, they leave it sitting there. Meanwhile, those who understand the financial game do things differently. These people do not see money only as something to save. They see money as a tool that can be used to buy assets, invest, learn, build income, and create new opportunities. The bank knows this, the wealthy know this, investors know this. The question is, when are you going to start knowing it too? This is not about rushing to put money anywhere. That would be dangerous. It's not about chasing easy promises, quick profit, or miracle investments. The first step is to study, to understand, to learn how money works before making decisions. Because money without knowledge can turn into loss, but money with knowledge can turn into growth. So the message here is simple. Do not let your money sleep forever. If you work so hard to earn it, you need to learn to make part of it work for you. You need to study investments that can beat inflation. You need to understand where you are putting your money. You need to seek knowledge before acting. You need to move away from the mindset of just saving and into the mindset of multiplying with intelligence. Because whoever only saves may feel safe for a while, but whoever learns to invest consciously starts building a different future. And perhaps this is the phrase you need to take from this first point. The bank knows how to make money with your money. Now it is time for you to learn too. Now that you have understood that money cannot stand still forever, comes the second point. Time cannot be wasted without direction either. Because there is a truth that makes many people uncomfortable. We all have the same 24 hours in a day. The wealthy person has 24 hours. The poor person has 24 hours. The employee has 24 hours. The entrepreneur has 24 hours. The person who is growing has 24 hours. And the person who is standing still also has 24 hours. The difference is not in the clock. The difference is in intention. Many people finish work, arrive home tired and use all their free time just to distract themselves. They turn on the television, spend hours on the phone, scroll through videos without noticing the time passing, complain about life, go to bed late and the next day wake up to repeat everything all over again. And to be clear, resting is necessary. Nobody can produce all the time. The body needs a break. The mind needs to breathe. The family needs attention. The problem is not resting. The problem is using all free time only to escape from life instead of using part of it to build a better life. Because while one person is using every evening just to consume content, another is using part of their evening to learn a new skill. While one is saying, "I have no time," another is using 30 minutes a day to create something. While one is simply waiting for the paycheck to arrive, another is building a side income without leaving their job. And this is where many people start to turn things around. A person does not need to drop everything at once, does not need to quit tomorrow, does not need to abandon their current job to start growing. Many times, the first step is to make better use of the time that already exists. It could be 1 hour a day. It could be half an hour. It could be a few evenings a week. The important thing is to turn part of your free time into building time. Maybe you can start by studying sales. Maybe you can learn digital marketing. Maybe you can sell a simple product online. Maybe you can create content about something you understand. Maybe you can work with affiliates. Maybe you can offer a service. Maybe you can turn a skill you already have into a small source of income. You do not need to start big. You need to start seriously. Because many people look at those who have results and think, that person got lucky. But almost nobody sees the hidden hours, the nights studying, the weekends trying, the mistakes, the tests, the first small sales. The content nobody watched at the beginning, the services delivered with difficulty, the discipline maintained when there was still no applause. Nothing is born ready. A side business starts small, a side income starts small, a channel starts small, a digital product starts small, a service starts with few customers. But all of this can grow when there is consistency. And here is the main point. Your free time may be being used to keep you in the same place or to take you out of that place. If every day you give your best hours only to work and give the remaining time to tiredness, the phone and distraction, your financial life will hardly change because you are using all your time to survive, not to build. But when you set aside part of your time to learn, create and sell, you start to open a new door. And in the beginning, that door may seem small. Maybe you earn little. Maybe you still see no results. Maybe it seems slow. But remember, a second income is not born big. It is born from the decision not to depend forever on a single source. The person who understands this starts to treat time as capital, because time is also wealth. When you use your time to learn something that can increase your income, you are investing. When you use your time to build a project, you are investing. When you use your time to create a skill that you can sell in the future, you are investing. The difference is that instead of investing only money, you are investing energy, attention, and discipline. So ask yourself, what am I doing with my free hours? That question can change a great deal. Maybe you will discover that you have more time than you imagined, not because your life is easy, but because there are small spaces being wasted every day. 10 minutes here, 30 minutes there, an hour lost on the phone, an entire weekend without direction. And when you put those pieces together, you realize there is enough time to start. Not to do everything, but to take the first step. Instead of using all your free time just to rest from a life you no longer want, use part of that time to build the life you wish to have. Because whoever wants to grow wealthy needs to learn to make better use of two things: money and time. Money needs to work, and time needs to build. That is the second point. Instead of waiting for a great opportunity to appear, start using a small part of your day to create new opportunities. Because perhaps the financial freedom you are looking for in 2026 does not begin with more money coming into your account. Perhaps it begins with 1 hour a day used more intelligently. Before moving on to the next point, let me remind you of something important. I have pinned in the comments a special ebook for those who want to study this subject more deeply and start putting all of this into practice with more direction. Because it is not enough to just watch the video, feel moved for a few minutes, and then return to the same old habits. If you want to change your financial life in 2026, you need to study, apply, and repeat every day. This ebook was prepared to help you with exactly that. Organize your ideas better, understand how to use money more intelligently, and take the first steps toward a stronger financial life. But pay attention, there are only a few copies left. So if you feel that the time has come to stop living only waiting for your paycheck and start building a new path, take advantage of it while it is still in the comments. Now let us continue, because the next point can completely change the way you see money. Now we move to the next point. Money is a language, and whoever does not learn that language spends their entire life obeying those who did. Think about that for a moment. Every area of life has its own language. A doctor talks about diagnosis, examination, treatment. A lawyer talks about contracts, lawsuits, clauses. An engineer talks about structure, calculation, design. And the world of money is no different. Money also has a language, but the problem is that many people were never taught to speak that language. Most people grow up hearing phrases like, find a stable job, don't get involved with investments because it's risky, buy in installments because it fits the budget, finance now and pay later. Money is hard. The rich got lucky. Only people who were already born with money invest. And when a person believes this for many years, they start making small financial decisions. They work, receive, pay bills, use the credit card, take on financing, split purchases into installments, and think that is normal. But while an ordinary person speaks only of salary, installments, credit card limit, and monthly payments, people who understand money speak a different language. They speak of assets. They speak of dividends. They speak of passive income. They speak of compound interest. They speak of cash flow. They speak of leverage. They speak of net worth. They speak of financial freedom. Do you notice the difference? One person is asking, how much is the installment? The other is asking, how much can this generate in return? One is thinking, will my salary cover it? The other is thinking, is this money working for me or against me? One wants only to buy, the other wants to build. And that is why learning the language of money changes everything. Because when you do not understand money, anyone can convince you. The bank convinces you to accept high interest rates. The store convinces you to pay in installments for something you did not need. Advertising convinces you to buy in order to feel better. The credit card convinces you that your limit is income, and people who are also financially trapped convince you to keep doing the same things they do. So be careful with the advice you listen to. Many people receive financial advice from people who are in exactly the same place they want to get out of. They receive advice from someone who has never invested, from someone who lives in debt, from someone who is afraid to learn, from someone who thinks every investment is a scam, from someone who believes a salary is the only possible path. And this is not about judging anyone. Many of those people speak with good intentions. They want to protect you. They want to prevent you from making mistakes. But sometimes, advice given with good intentions can keep you trapped in the same reality. If you want to change your financial life, you need to start learning from those who understand the game. This does not mean going out and believing every promise on the internet. On the contrary, it means studying seriously, comparing information, understanding the risks, and learning gradually. Because the language of money is not learned in a single day. You learn it by practicing, reading, listening, observing, asking better questions. Start with the basics. Understand what inflation is, understand what compound interest is, understand the difference between an asset and a liability, understand what cash flow is, understand why consumer debt can destroy your salary, understand why investing without knowledge can be dangerous, but never investing at all can also be costly. When you learn this language, your eyes open. You start to realize that not every promotion is an opportunity. Not every small installment is light. Not every financing deal is an advantage. Not every saved amount of money is truly growing. Not every popular piece of advice is smart. And above all, you start to understand that wealth is not born only from how much you earn, but from how you think, speak, and act in relation to money. So if in 2026 you want to break out of the cycle of just working and paying bills, you need to make a commitment. Learn the language of money, because whoever does not understand that language lives depending on other people's decisions. But whoever learns it starts making their own decisions with greater clarity, and from the moment you understand money, you stop being afraid of it. You stop treating investment as something distant. You stop thinking that wealth is a subject only for those who were already born wealthy. You start to realize that money is a skill. And skills can be learned. That is the point. Before trying to multiply money, learn to understand money. Because when you learn the language of money, you stop being just someone who receives a salary and start becoming someone who builds wealth with intelligence. Last step, wake up to the system and start thinking financially for yourself. After all of this, there is a truth that needs to be stated clearly. Many people were not educated to think financially. They were trained to obey. They were taught to study, get good grades, find a job, receive a salary, pay bills, finance things, accept debt as a normal part of life, and wait for retirement to arrive someday. And for many years, this was presented as the only safe way to live. But the problem is that this path, for many people, did not bring freedom. It brought exhaustion. It brought dependence. It brought a routine where the person works hard, receives, pays everything, is left with little, and starts the next month the same way. And that is why you need to wake up. Waking up does not mean dropping everything at once. It does not mean acting without thinking. It does not mean running after any easy promise. Waking up means starting to question. Question why you work so hard and still feel you are not moving forward. Question why the bank profits so much from people's money. Question why you learned so much at school, but almost nothing about interest, taxes, investments, and net worth. Question why so many people earn more, but remain trapped in the same financial race. Because the first sign of change is when you stop accepting everything on autopilot. From the moment you understand that a financial game is taking place, you start to play it more consciously. You stop being just someone who receives a salary and pays bills. You start to think like someone who builds. And to build, you need to invest in knowledge. You need to learn about money. You need to understand assets, liabilities, passive income, cash flow, good debt, bad debt, and investments. You need to stop listening to advice from those who are also trapped and start seeking guidance from those who truly understand the path. Robert Kiyosaki talks a great deal about this. Financial freedom does not begin only when you have a lot of money. It begins when you change the way you think about money. Because when your mind changes, your choices change. You start to think before spending. You start to study before investing. You start to build assets before raising your standard of living. You start to use your free time to create opportunities. You start to look at your salary not as a final destination, but as a starting point. And that is the great message of this video. You do not need to remain trapped in the same routine forever. Perhaps today your reality is still not ideal. Perhaps you still have debts, fear, little money saved, or no source of income beyond your salary. But change begins when you decide to stop living on autopilot. Start small, but start. Study a little each day. Organize your money, cut waste. Build your reserve. Learn about investments, create assets, develop skills. Use your time with intention. And above all, do not hand your financial life over to a system that profits when you remain uninformed. Because in 2026, whoever wants to change their life needs to do more than work hard. They need to think better. They need to act better. They need to learn to use money as a tool, not as a prison. Wake up, question, study, build, share this mindset with other people. Because when a person learns to think financially, they do not only change their own life, they can change the life of their family, inspire friends, and break cycles that have been repeating for years. And now, I want you to make a commitment to yourself. Write in the comments or say out loud, "I will start today." Say it with conviction. I will start today. Today, I will study more about money. Today, I will stop living on autopilot. Today, I will start building assets. Today, I will take the first step toward my financial freedom in 2026. If this video opened your eyes, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Because here you will keep learning to think like an investor, use your money better, and build a stronger financial life.